Does everybody need to just calm down? That's what today's show is all about, man. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of stuff happening and a lot of stuff to get people riled up. When you look at like the hearings, whether they're happening, who's going to be in it. When you look at the UAPDA, which is that bill is pretty much a joke now. It got gutted again, and it's going to be, don't even bother in December, right? And then our own Pavel was on Vetted talking about how there's through the Webb Telescope or something. Peter will correct me more in here, but there's they detected something, and apparently in 2033 it potentially could be here, and it's not organic and it's course correcting, which is what the rumor is out there and what Pavel was told, and people are picking up on it and having those conversations. But it seems, although with all this stuff going on, that everybody is just kind of going after one another and, disarray and all that. And it's like, isn't that kind of what they want you to do? Isn't that kind of what they're hoping for? You yelling at people and going after people and making videos and saying, this is it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. But we'll discuss all that and more, because then we have other stuff that we haven't done in a little bit. There's other things. There's still footage of stuff flying around all the time, and we haven't really discussed what the hell is it? What do we think it is? Is this the kind of stuff that's going to ultimately lead to catastrophic disclosure, as they say, especially with the gutting of the bill once again? Is that ultimately going to happen, or is it just one of these things where it might just disappear? We'll discuss that and more on UAP Tuesday with myself and Attack Peter. Let's do it. All right, everybody, we're back. It is UAP Tuesday on Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff. Thank you once again on this show on a Tuesday. And my co-host today is the one and only, the very talented artist, Attack Peter. Hello, man.
What's up, dude?
How you doing?
Good, man. Happy to be here.
Chaos everywhere we go. Everywhere we see is chaos, except you and I are just, I feel like if it's that alien movie and everybody's losing their minds and the roof blows off the place, it's just you and I watching Independence Day stoned on the couch.
100%. There's an amazing quote from George Carlin that I repeat to myself like a mantra whenever I notice myself getting wrapped up in the drama of whatever the situation is. Like in this case, we're talking UAP stuff and the UAP community. Often I think about it when I'm thinking about the political world. Sometimes I even think about it when it comes to the other area that we're involved in, which is the entertainment industry and all that. But someone, apparently, I'm paraphrasing, someone asked George Carlin, hey, how do you keep it together and like keep such a positive, fun demeanor when you're constantly discussing and covering all these horrible things that, that make up for the basis of your comedy, et cetera? And he was like, well, I just think of it like I'm at a freak show and I got front row seats to the freak show. So what am I going to do? I'm going to sit back and enjoy the freak show.
Yeah.
And it's like such a wise statement, because it kind of it embodies the message of like, hey man, there's only so much you can control.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can control is how you react to things. And I feel like that's the theme for today.
100%. And it is just, as I have told you, and the whole basis, and what I tell people, if you've discovered this channel, you want to go to certain channels, and you want to go and you want to look at the deep dives of people who've been studying this for years, and people who know every single event that happened and know the ins and the outs and all the woo-woo stuff and all that stuff. This is not the channel, guys.
That ain't us.
That's not us. This channel is basically, look, we were following up on the news, what's going to happen, the idea and the question of the average schmuck that's out there that's going to, what is this stuff? Is it going to, there's more and more evidence pointing to something going on out there that the government isn't telling us, and we're just like, hey, what's going on? Knock, knock, knock. The average, turd. And then we'll go and we'll turn on our TV shows, watch our movies, and then when it turns into more and more stuff, we're there. There are other people that I think are real. I always mention Patrick, and Patrick's doing an amazing job. Patrick and I are very, very different in the way we cover stuff. Pavel, very, very different in the way that we cover stuff. Jeremy Corbell and I, very, very different. So it depends on the point of view what you want. And I would tell you to subscribe to all of them. Every
100%.
single one of them you're interested in, especially if you're guys like us, because that's how you're going to learn about stuff. You don't have to believe everything. You don't have to, you can ask questions. You can just be educated a little bit more, because I think that is essentially your kind of mainstream coverage, if you want to call it that. But it's really what it is, because no one else is really covering it. So there are always these stories. There's always things that pop up. And look, Pavel's been on this show many, many times. One would say he started doing a lot of, he started on his channel. He started on his channel. He's been doing his channel forever, but then he really started to get more involved on our show. And then he does a lot of stuff on Patrick's show. And he was on Patrick's show, and he made this claim, or rather, he reported
what. Yeah, he conveyed information that he was given, which I think is the big thing to consider.
100%. It's something that he was told. So this is a snippet of that show, of where there was like a 2-hour show, I think, that they did on. It
was long.
It was long. So on Vetted, that's another thing. Is that you
it's too long?
Well, no, it's a look. For them, if I do 2-hour shows,
the whole thing.
I do 2-hour shows for my movie stuff like every day. I just also don't have the time to do it. And if you're into an interesting conversation, I shouldn't look. When I was when I had Tim Gallaudet and those guys on, I wanted to talk to those guys for like 2-3 hours, but it's time consuming, man. It's time consuming. And if you're doing this every day the way those guys are, and that's really like, as I told you, and my main focus is also the pop culture channel and the movie stuff too. I'm going to screenings at night and things of that nature. My focus is kind of all, my family's all over the place. These guys are like in the thick of it. This is it.
Laser.
This is laser focus. This is what they're doing. And that could probably be really mentally taxing too. Dude. Because I got to shut off from it sometimes, because when I dive in and we're going to cover this stuff, I want to be well educated on that. I want to look what's going on. I want to be able to discuss with you and say, okay, here are our thoughts on it. And then I want to say, hey, did you see that new Transformers movie? Because you can detach from it. And have you seen it, by the way?
No.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
I wasn't anti it from the beginning, by the way, like a lot of people. Yeah. I'm like, I know a trailer can be bad, but it looks good to me.
The trailer was terrible. The trailer was terrible. The movie was awesome. Anyway, that's a different
I'm going to watch it.
Different podcast. So here is this clip that I want to play from Vetted. And this is our buddy Pavel talking about this. Here you go.
The possible incoming contact. The second discovery was tasked to look at a possible incoming contact, so an object that they spotted. This person that I've been talking to was asked to not talk about the details yet, but they can tell me that the first discovery, the lights, came from ESA, the European Space Agency. The other one is coming from the USA Canadian team, also from James Webb though, but they're the ones leading this investigation. It was tasked from either the NSA or the DoD. They don't know who's the one tasking it, but yes, it is part of this quote-unquote threat narrative. The signal that is incoming is the big unknown. What they know is that it is coming. What they don't know is what the hell it is. I am trying to get people from Congress, either Congress people or staffers, to give me an official quote. Another detail that was given to this person that I'm talking to is that this object is making moves, braking moves, and course correcting moves. So that means that it is not a natural satellite. That means that it is not an asteroid either. It's coming this way, and it is massive. I wasn't given speed of this object. I wasn't given dimensions. It was very vague, and this is what Congress people are being told as well. But there is another nugget of information that they're being told, which is the reason they are doing these unclassified briefings, because apparently there is some level of urgency. That doesn't mean that it's a threat, but it needs to be looked at and it needs to be studied. Elizondo is already talking about it. Matt Ford is already talking about it. I know that more people are gonna start coming forward with it over the next 10 days or so. Congress people are being briefed about it as we speak.
How confident are you that it's true that there is an object detected by James Webb that's headed towards Earth that is massive. Like how confident are you in that, not in that information you got from your source?
More than confident, it's like I'm weary that this information is being passed around. I don't know if it's true. I know that it is being passed around.
Sure.
That I'm confident of.
Sure.
But I want to know their motive for talking about this and why it's being like urgently communicated. Because
is this tied to what Lue was saying on Matt's show?
Yeah, it is.
You think those two things are the same thing?
Is that confirmed, or you think it is?
I asked, and I didn't get a no. I can talk about it.
That's so
weird. Can you say who you asked, or like
No.
Matt or Lue?
Okay. No, okay. I can't say.
I mean, it would have to be Lue.
All right.
He's the only one to confirm or deny that.
I mean, that whole conversation was just
There's
so
a whole group.
weird.
There's a whole group that knows about this, Patrick. It's not just them two, you know.
There have been some significant rumors of events regarding UAP that may occur within, like 10 years or so. I don't know if it's something coming or a natural disaster. You hear of something big coming down the pike. Have you heard of these claims? And if so, do you have any idea what it may be?
Yes, I've heard of them. Yes, I'm aware of them, and I'm not able to have that conversation.
Got it.
It's not my conversation to have, but I am aware of it.
We're kind of preparing the U.S. population, at least, and by extension, the world population, into that reality that there is a presence here, and that we need to explain this presence. Because if they show up and we continue to do what we did before, previous decades, and they show up, there will be mass panic. But if you understand that these are real, and we have 5 years from 2022, or maybe now 4 years, if they come in 2027, for the U.S. government to prepare the people about what is up there. And in many ways, I think the word got out within the government that they're showing up in 2027, and we better be prepared. And if not, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do. And so I think that dialogue has happened within inside the government, in certain areas inside the government, that we need to prepare. And that's why in 2017, that set a clock of 10 years. And why Lue Elizondo earlier in this year said, just find a hobby for 5 years. And, it'll all be out in 5 years. And he said that this year, so that was 2027. Huh. And I would say I've heard 2027 in a kind of an official capacity that I can't reveal. So I think I would say that people in the government are aware of something happening, and that there's limited time, a few more years to prepare the people, and that's what's ramping up this acceleration from the previous 7 decades of not even acknowledging it to now we are acknowledging it at a faster and faster pace.
All right, first of all, I want to give props to the Twitter account of Challenge Reality for putting together that video. It was an excellent video of putting together kind of everything inside of this topic that we're going to be discussing here. And I had so many questions here, Peter, from where we can go on this topic, And the first is, let's take it on the, where do you want to go? You want to go optimism?
I think the first thing I would say is that Pavel, in that video and in other videos I've seen, just for the record, does not say, in fact, he says he's not saying it's true. I think that's very important for his sake, because I think a lot of people, I saw comments accusing him of fear mongering and all that. He's not saying it's true. He's not even saying it's a threat. He's saying that this is what he was told by sources that he believes and has confidence in. And what he has confidence in is it's being passed around, not that whether or not the statement is a true statement. So that's very important, I think, for his sake and for the sake of everybody listening and paying attention. So, and I think that, you start there because Pavel, you don't want Pavel getting dogpiled on.
No, of course. Look, he's reporting it because that's what he's doing. He's a reporter. He's a reporter, and he's doing the stories of. And if you hear this, and if you look, and I think a better idea of. That's why that Twitter exchange or video rather, was so, I think, well done, is because it essentially ties a lot of this stuff together. It's not like Pavel just saying, oh, you know who I heard that Arnold's coming out of retirement. He's going to play the next Batman. It's like, where'd you hear that? It's like, oh, I just heard it. And it's like, but no one else has said that. That's coming from absolutely nowhere. Yeah, but I heard it from a person who heard it from a person. Yeah. That's not what he's doing. This is tied back into, and I know Pavel, by the way, pretty well, and he will go to people and say to them, hey, I'm hearing this. You talked about this. If I was to guess, I haven't spoken to him about this at all, but if I was to guess, he probably spoke to Matt Ford.
That's my guess.
That might be probably, I would say it's probably a good probability that he spoke to Matt Ford and said, and asked him, I said, hey, is this the thing? Don't say that you talked to me, but yes, it is. Yeah. And that's what I think it is. I think this is, and you look at that other one from Ramirez and the conversation that they had there, and I've seen that interview, and that is a scary interview in general. Now, when I talked to you, I don't think it was off here. I can't tell anymore. Everything blends together. But when I asked you what the date was, when they said you said somewhere in the 30s, are you?
Yeah, so these clips keep referring to 2027.
Yeah.
And then I remember, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when I was watching that interview or that video conversation with the four guys, Patrick on Vetted and all them, that 2033 was mentioned. So like I'm trying to, like, someone can help us figure out what the 2033 is, but there seems to be two dates passed around. And then I remember, because it seems relevant, when you look at the Seoul conference chart, 2030 is like a year where things like flip over. And so there's like a range of time, I would say a 6-year range between 2027 and 2033 where things should get interesting.
Okay. Well, I just got a text from Pavel, and he said he will join us to discuss this. So we will wait for him to do that, but we'll discuss it in the interim. And yeah, we'll find out, and we'll see from him. We'll ask him for a date. We'll ask him those things and see what he thinks. But the skeptic side of me says, okay, they've known this for a bit now, that this event is coming. They know these things are coming. And look at it like an Independence Day type. Remember, in the beginning, I just watched Independence Day recently.
Stop using that movie title as a reference, because that just paints everything with the apocalypse.
But I'm just using it more so in the science of it in the beginning, right? Not of ultimately what's going to happen. We better, because there's no.
Let's use Close Encounters.
Well, but the reason why I use it, I'm going to stick with Independence Day, and I'll tell you why. It's because in the beginning of the movie, the science, they're picking up the signals, and they see it, and it's coming in. It's not coming in years. It's coming in like now. They're like, it's going to be here within the hour, type thing. So that's why I think about that when I hear it. But it's like, yes, you're right. If we're going down that path, then it's like there's nothing you can do. You better take up as many hobbies as you can. But either way, the skeptic side of me says, okay, so they know, if they absolutely know that this thing is coming in 2027, 2030, whatever it is, why do we care about anything else in the world?
100%.
If they know, it's one thing that if, they know that they're supposed to keep it quiet and they're going to keep it quiet from us forever. Go check it out. Go to the malls. Go do your restaurants. Nothing to see here. Have a blast. As they say in this, if they know that in 2027, 2030, whatever it is, that these things are coming, then the jig is up.
Well, not only that, when John Ramirez says, if we don't prepare our population, then when they arrive, there's going to be some explaining to do.
Right.
Well, what does that mean? Because if it's coming as a big threat to wipe everything out, what are you going to explain to who, and why would you care? I don't think you would do a slow drip PR campaign disclosure, soft disclosure that's happening now, if you expected this to be a full aggressive invasion
Well,
situation.
but he doesn't really say that. He doesn't say, what he just says is that there's going to be some explaining to do with that.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean invasion. What it could mean is just like,
no, that's what I'm saying. It's the opposite.
Yeah,
it's like,
but
if you're going to have to explain something, it'd be more like, hey, who are these guys?
Right.
And, well, I guess we should have told you.
We should have told you what, right.
Means.
Yeah, that's exactly. I read it that way too, but it's more of like, okay, wait a minute. If you can get the egg off your face now, then why do it? And then you add into what we were going to cover anyway today, and that's essentially what happened. Speaking of Matt Ford, they reported that the new UAPDA bill, it's essentially gutted to pieces. None of the stuff that matters is in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why even bother trying to pass the stupid thing at this point? It's like, it's a joke. And that led to people in the comment section, okay, well, I guess this is it. I guess this is going to now be this catastrophic disclosure. And if all of that, if people are aware of that in the higher circles, if you will, and let's put all of this as if this is this report by Pavel and this report by everybody else is that this is this big thing that's going to happen, plus the fact that they have all this knowledge, then and they also know that by keeping this out of the Congress, that people are going to start leaking stuff. Then why do they even bother trying to cover it up anymore? That's what I don't get. If all that other stuff is true, does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. If you look at it on its surface, the whole thing reads and feels like, a PR campaign for an event where you want to get ahead of something,
right?
And not be seen as, an antagonistic force when, a paradigm shift happens, right? There's another thing that Lue said, by the way, in another conversation. I've seen him on so many people's, maybe Julian Dore's podcast. That's that his name? I can't remember. But that he talks about, he doesn't want UAP or whatever the UAP are to be the focus of a new religion. Mm-hmm. And that stuck with my mind because that indicates that he believes that whatever it is going to be a new.
And who said this? Lue said this?
Lue said that.
Yeah.
A new regular force in our life. It doesn't sound like, something's coming to wipe everybody out, because then why would you even consider them as a religion? That means
but that's what I don't understand though, because he contradicts himself sometimes, and sometimes he says things where it's like, well, that's not factual. Like I know that recently he just said that Trump was the only president that ever took UAPs serious. Well, what about Ford, who said he saw one? What about Carter, who said he saw one? It's like, what about Kennedy, who was talking about it? So I don't. Sometimes he says things like, he's the only one who took it serious. He's just, and like, you got to be so careful, especially when you're him. You got to be so careful with your words. It's one thing to say, and plus the fact Trump's been on the air with people saying, "Yeah, I don't think I believe it." He hasn't looked at it as cuckoo stuff, but he said, "I don't think I believe it," but I talked to pilots who say that they do. So I don't know how serious he's taking it, in the same way that like Carter was taking it serious, or these other people, and there probably were others that we didn't know about. But like, it's one thing to say, okay, or even to say, I know that he takes it very serious, as opposed to the most serious or the only one takes it, whatever he said. So you got to be careful with that, especially when the spotlight, because he is right now, Lue Elizondo is the guy that the spotlight is on the most. Talking to casual people. And he's getting the word out there in the way more so than Congress is doing right now. He's in the same way that he helped him and Mellon helped in 2017. He's getting the word out there. He's doing that. But you got to be. It's just and it's like anything else, man. You have to be so careful when you're doing a mass media tour of the things that you say, because people are going to dissect it.
Yeah, it's concerning to me when I saw that interview, because just again for optics' sake. I strongly believe that like you can align with anybody to do good and no one to do evil or bad, right? So I don't have a problem with him, going on Trump Jr.'s show or whatever it is, but it is a tricky thing that now it's a political football issue, which you and I have said, I hope this doesn't become a political football. Like I hope this doesn't get aligned with one side or the other.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. It's like you can do, and that's why I always push back to people on this channel. When we cover we covered one time when Trump said something about a UFO or something too, and people's like, and there were people going, you're or even Burchett, you're covering this guy when he said this. I'm like, I'm not covering the stuff that he said outside of this topic. I'm talking about this topic. So whoever's talking about this topic, we're going to talk about it and cover it because of what's being said, because we're talking about the topic itself. So that's why when you do that show, same thing. You're going to go on the show, you're going to get the word out there, but that's why you've got to be so careful with your words, because if you go out there going, oh, well, he's the only one that took it serious. You look like you're catering to the host.
That made me a little bummed out because I feel like whatever his media training slipped up.
Yeah, you look like you're catering to the host, and it's like wouldn't have done it. One simple word. Yep. I'm glad that he's taking it serious. That's all you gotta say.
That's all you gotta say.
I'm glad that he was taking it serious.
I'm glad he's taking it serious. I'm happy to talk to him or any other candidate or any blah 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 blah. Right?
That's it. Because when you start saying he's the only one, then it's like, oh, okay. What else are you going to say? You're going to tell her how nice his hair is next?
Yeah. Yeah. I believe he thinks that, by the way. I believe he believes that he would talk with anybody. And
maybe so. Irrelevant. Maybe so.
People are going to grab on that like red meat.
100%. And it's like, you got to, because everybody's looking for a reason to take anyone in this topic not serious, right? In the same way that, like, when he was talking about like remote viewing, I happen to believe remote viewing. I happen to think that it's a thing, right? But it's not an easy sell. And is that the thing to put in your book and to come out the gate with?
Yeah.
Some people will say maybe it is, because if that's what it is, But what I will say, again, talking about smartly, he wasn't really discussing it that much on the tour unless somebody talked to him about it. I think he might have mentioned it briefly when he was on Rogan or whatever. But you've got to just be because this is part of the, I guess, the slow drip disclosure, right? And it's like, if you're telling people and you're getting people used to these things, you got to choose your words wisely. And it is, and I also want to be fair to Lue, because it's like, he's got everybody on his back right now, whether or not you believe him or not. He's got everybody on his back, because there's not a lot of people. Grush is nowhere to be found. Where's that? I don't know where that guy is. I think from what they say, not that he's calculating something. I think that because he was supposed to do the op-ed, that didn't happen. I think that he's got from what I heard, he's doing a book. So once the book comes out, he'll probably do the same thing that Lue is doing with more information. So, but doesn't take away the fact that he's not in the forefront right now. Not here. So who else? Where's Gary Nolan been? I haven't seen a lot of Gary Nolan recently. Is he going to be doing stuff? Is it calculated, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
I feel like there's probably factions, and not that factions in an opposing sense, but there's like probably factions who work together on things, and they say, hey, you do these few months with your tour, then you go and clock out for a while, then I'll clock in. That's, in my opinion, how you do this effectively, is you have a constant drip of something new. And the way that our media cycle works, like right now, I'm seeing Lue on every freaking channel there is on YouTube, but I have to remind myself that not everybody subscribes to every channel.
Right.
So it's like somebody will catch him on one of them. And then the next cycle, Grush or whoever will come out with their book and do something and go on every channel. And then we'll remember when Lue was doing everything, so
but
it'll
that's
probably
classic,
be like that.
That's classic
That way
PR.
nobody burns out and you have a constant flow.
And that's classic PR. So you do as many shows as you can do. And because I can't just hope that you watch this show. I can't hope that you watch that show. I got to do as many as possible. And I got to hope that there's as many clip outs and people are putting it on Twitter, and there's more stuff, not just to sell the book, to get the word out there in general of what is going on. He's got his name out there. I told you, I bring up that when I was talking to Jillian Michaels, and she said to me, when we started talking about the UFO topic, she goes, oh, did you see Lue on Joe Rogan? And that's where she heard him from. And that interview, last I checked, was at like 1.5, maybe 2 million views. I can't remember. So that's a big number for them to get out there. And then he's done tons of other shows. He's been on, and he went on the Daily Show, I believe, also. He's gotten a lot of mainstream coverage on this. CNN covered it. Fox News covered it. Everybody covered it, which is great. And now the cycle needs to continue. But this is the other thing where, if going back to the Pavel story, and if this is a thing that Congress is being briefed of, and this is something that I would ask like Matt Laszlo about, right? Because Matt Laszlo can actually ask these people. And he can get there, and I know Pavel in that clip said he's trying to to discuss and get a confirmation. It's like, and I'm sure Pavel has reached out to Matt Laszlo, but like Matt Laszlo should be asking this question if this is one of those serious things, because like, what do they say to that? Is it if you ask somebody, like, there are some people who'd be like, oh, I hadn't heard anything about that. And I would believe them, because so somebody had reached out. There's some documentary coming out, and they reached out for me to check it out. And some of the names that were attached were pretty good. And they said, would you want to interview these people? And I said, yeah. One of them was Gillibrand, right? And I said, I would love to interview Gillibrand, because this is this type of stuff I would ask. And I'm so, from these interviews that Matt Laszlo gets, a lot of them seem so in the dark with some of this stuff. Like, it's like the last thing if there's 50 things on their docket, it's number 51.
Remember what I told you about Rubio? That he seemed like he had no idea about some.
Exactly.
I mean, like you said, not everybody has to know everything, but there were at least, names that you would recognize, I think.
Right. And it's like, so to me, I just feel it's just baffling to me. It's just baffling to me that especially if there's something coming in 2027, 2030, or whatever it is, that if I was working in the Senate and I'm going, I don't care about this bill you want to pass about sheep coming over the highway. I don't care about that. I don't care about, the new restaurants. I don't care about it. I want to find out more about the thing that's course correcting in the air, and how I'm going to prepare my family, my kids, kids, and everybody. And what is this? And I think that we should tell people. So I just think that if enough people knew about it, that it would be like, like, can we drop everything and can we stop like fighting now? And who cares about any of this stuff? What is that thing floating in the sky?
Yeah, and part of me thinks about how these systems work. Like, I can imagine a world where there are still, in the face of like earth-shattering news, no pun intended, that there are still people who would try to figure out a grift and how to make money off of it and how to take advantage of it. But for the most part, I agree with you. I think someone would crack on that. It's too big. Or the story isn't what we're imagining it to be. And that's possible too. Like, the story could be as simple as, hey, whatever they have decided they're going to be more, visible starting in 2027, with a potential where they might land somewhere and they might have to do something and it might be seen by more people. So, hey, you guys might want to prep because this is going to happen. And they're like,
right.
I don't know if I want to be the UAP senator or the UFO. You know what I mean? Like, I can see that. Let somebody else do it. They pass the buck. Yeah,
but it's just when I'm just talking about the scale of what this particular story could mean. But
right.
All right. So we're trying to get Pavel in here. He's having a problem with the stream, this link. So what we'll do is I'm going to tell you guys real quick about our friends over at BetterHelp. If you want to support this show and you have the means to support this show and you want to actually be able to talk to some people, if you need to, I'm going to tell you a little bit about BetterHelp. Here you go. This episode of Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let me ask you, what are your self-care non-negotiables? What is it, that you never skip a leg day or therapy day? Because when your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Because even when we know what makes us happy, it is hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. Therapy is very important. I've been in that position, man, when I haven't talked and I've let things bottled up, and it is not a good thing. You got to talk to people. And we've had people on our show that have said, listen, we've needed to speak to people. We had an opportunity to, and BetterHelp has been there for a lot of people very close in my life. Because if you don't know, it's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, it is flexible, and it is suited to your schedule. All you have to do is you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. You got to visit betterhelp.com/DTE today. You get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/DTE. All right, thank you to our friends over at BetterHelp. Really appreciate them. And make sure, again, if you need to talk to somebody, the link is in the description. Please go and do so. All right, as we were mentioning with this story and everything going on, a guy you've seen on this show many times over, and now you've seen him all over the place talking about this particular story. Pavel in the house. What's up, Pavel?
Hey, how's everyone doing? Hello, down to earth people.
You've been busy.
Kristian, Peter.
You've been busy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we were discussing with this story. We said that one of the things that people have to realize, obviously, is that you're a reporter. You hear these things. You're doing the research on it. You do not have to confirm or deny this. My guess, because we watched the clip outs and the things of what you were talking about, people, and Patrick asked you who you're talking to about it, and I 100% believe you that there's probably a big group. I would guess you probably spoke to Matt Ford, who probably confirmed that deal, because it makes sense that I know you well enough to where you're going to be researching. You're not just, you hear something, you're not going to go, I'm just going to say this now. You want to say, okay, this could collaborate with the other thing, this big event, or whatever Ramirez was talking about back in the day. And I guess that's the first question is to you, because I asked Peter and he was didn't really know or thought that you guys said in the 30s. When is this supposed thing, from what you heard, this thing that's course corrected, when is this thing supposed to get here?
So, just to be clear, all I wanted to do was to know why this is being told to Congress people. And initially, when I made the first report, I was waiting for confirmation from 2 Congress staffers about a week from now, so I could use a statement. But what I did also was tell Matt Laszlo to fish, and he got something from Representative Andre Carson. That's his name?
Yes.
And when he gave that non-answer, that's when all hell broke loose.
What was the answer that he gave? Because that actually was my next question to you. It was right before you came in. I said, Pavel needs to go to Matt Laszlo and have him ask a few of these questions. Like, so you did that. And so what was his answer?
Matt asked if there were classified briefings on James Webb Telescope. The info I got was that they were unclassified. But he still asked the question, and Gillibrand said no, but Andre Carson said no comment. And that's when people were like, wait, this is happening? That doesn't mean,
no.
I don't think.
Couldn't it potentially mean that he had no idea and just wanted to say,
or that he was just in a hurry,
right.
that because people do that. When they're in a hurry, they just go like, no comment.
Well, they also will say, I have no clue what the hell this is, and I don't want to misspeak and say something. Yeah. And then you get, oh, shoot. So I don't look at that type of non-comments. Oh, he knew. Because the Gillibrand aspect of it, this is what we're always talking about. You and I have spoken about this. Peter and I just spoke about this. And I mentioned it before, Pavel, is that if there's 50 things on a list, I feel like a lot of these senators, this is number 51 on their list. You know what I mean? It's like they're like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, we're having a hearing. Who's in it? Oh, I like the Arrow people. We're going to do that, and people will leave us alone because we're doing a hearing now. My problem with the story is not your reporting at all. I think that you did exactly what you were supposed to do, and you looked into it, and you got the information, and you talked about it. I don't know why you didn't talk about it.
And you said from the beginning, like, I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying this is what I've heard, and this is why I think it's interesting. I think people really missed that part, is what I've noticed.
Yeah, and Peter and I were just talking about, we don't know why you didn't say it here first, but hey, that's on you. But when you have that story and you're doing that, that's fine. My problem with the story itself is this. Okay, so, and this is what I mentioned to Peter. You got either 20, and what did you say? Your answer to that? I'm sorry, about what year potentially?
Pavel, the question I had, and the Kristian's like talking about, like, I've heard, and I can't remember where I heard I've heard 2027 everywhere, and then I've heard 2033 a few places. Am I conflating two things? Like, can you help me with that?
This is like a running rumor because there are many different dates, but the overall rumor is that between 2027 and 2034, something is going to happen.
There it is.
Like the main room.
Okay, so let's start with that. It's like that gives you enough space in the same way that when you take the movie blog and you say, okay, there's a rumor that I heard that it looks like Timothée Chalamet is going to play the Flash in the new DC, but it's not going to happen until 2030. By the time everybody covers it, everybody talks about it, and by the time you get to 2030, nobody remembers the rumor anymore, and nobody remembers the person who said it anymore, whether that they were telling the truth or just looking for hits. And it's the same thing. It's like, okay, 2035. Okay, 2035 is either going to. Hey, guys, you remember that time remember about 10 years ago when they said aliens were going to show up in 2035? Well, it's 2040 and I'm dead. So it's like, so there's that. But the other part of it is this. It's that I don't understand if all this information is out there, that these people know that this thing is coming, that this isn't to them going, okay, we can't hold this. We've got to tell people what's going on now, and we got to start prepping people. And people can say, well, that looks what the process is. But then you sent me this article, Pavel, not 2 days ago, from Matt Ford, and the whole Schumer rounds bill got peed all over again. So it doesn't look like they're making any moves to try to tell anybody about this stuff.
No, but something I've noticed though is that people who support the control disclosure, after I broke the news story, many of them started like talking about it more openly, and some of them even bragged about it.
Who? What?
This event. I'm not gonna name names.
But they bragging it. Whether were they bragging about it on air or were they bragging about it outside?
On Twitter. Twitter.
Well, but if it's on Twitter, you can talk about it.
Yeah, but I just don't want attention from any of those guys because I know what they are like. If you name them, they go after you. So
even if they tweeted it out,
yeah, because you're putting them on the spot. Because I don't think it's okay to brag about it. One of them said that, I've known about this for a long time before these guys. It's like, dude, why are you bragging about something that you need to tell the public if you know about it? Supposedly,
right?
I don't understand.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, and it goes back to our conversation. What we always have here is that everybody should be trying to lift each other up here, as opposed to if this information is out there. I did see something from a show that said, well, we covered this first, and then Pavel covered it. It's like, who cares? Everybody covered it. Let's if it's a real story, then everybody should be covering it anyway. In the same way that you covered it on Patrick's show, and then Peter and I were texting, so we should talk about this because what the hell is this? What's happening?
And I only decided to cover it because of that information I got that Congress people were being briefed about it.
Right.
If I hadn't received that information, I wouldn't have covered it at all.
And you feel confident enough that the person that told you that Congress had it is legit?
Yeah, this person, everybody knows this person, and this person is in contact with people from the DOD, from the intelligence community, aerospace, hedge funds.
And it was not Laszlo?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't Laszlo. Okay. Laszlo just helped with the question. And the fact that he got a non-answer from Carson means that he's going to keep asking. So I don't know if we'll get more.
It made him more interested in that particular topic.
And the story blew up in his website too.
Okay. So then tell me more about the aftermath, right? So you go on there, you have this, you decide to break it on, and you're talking on unvetted, and you do it. So do you know in your heart of hearts going, okay, people are actually going to pick this thing up, or is it because you cover stuff every day? Or do you go, no, this one I think is really going to have traction because people want to know about this, and then what's the aftermath afterwards?
Yeah, the thing is that when I feel like a story is going to get attention, I first go through the info, try to vet it, and when I feel comfortable enough to release something, I do. What I was very naive about is that people often get clips from you and just play them without context. Which I'm sure it's happened to any of you guys before. This is the first time that it happens to me.
Welcome.
And that's what happened. People started getting the two clips, one from my first video and one from the vetted live stream, where I say this as if I was confirming it, but that is not what happened. I was just reporting on information, and all hell broke loose after Laszlo's story. I've been like, from debunkers, I've gotten so much shit, man.
But don't you know that's why I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, because Peter and I were talking this, and I said, and I've talked to you about this in the past, just off air, that you got to wash your hands of it and just post and run away.
Yeah, and Patrick need to hear that, by the way, because you guys were both in it all weekend. Like, guys, they're above it.
Doing this out there against it's a lose-lose, brother. That's a lose-lose.
You coast above it.
Yeah.
I will pay attention to that advice more often. I usually do not engage. I do pay attention to stuff because my brain is like I have a background in media analysis, so it's kind of impossible for me to not pay attention. But I usually don't engage. The video I did yesterday was the only time I will use to engage that. And
one and done.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So who's the most interesting person that you can talk about that has reached out to you after this particular thing?
Ross Coulthart.
Did he? And what was his breakdown of this? What did he think about
He
all
told me that he has heard the rumor before, but he didn't know about the Congress stuff. And he would never ask me for my sources, but I've gotten other people reach out to me and ask me for my sources, and I'm like, I'm not telling you shit, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. Ross also has an old video. I don't remember.
He posted it. He just reposted it.
Yeah, where he talks about the James Webb stuff, but the new stuff is the one about the Congress people. That's the news.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. Like, how does I also wonder how he has not heard about this stuff through the Congress side of it too. Is that because it's just so tight knit right now?
It's relatively recent what happened in Congress, and I'm not sure how they plan to talk about it if they are. But I think that today we're gonna get a little bit of new information on that on UFO Twitter Week.
Yeah.
On the KGRA Twitter space. I'll send you the time slot so you can have it, and let's see how it goes. I'm not sure, but I think we're getting new information on that later today.
Okay. All right.
Get in there, Kristian.
Yeah, I know. We need to check it out.
Twitter space.
Yeah. Well, I popped into one or two here and there, but it is like I said, it's my sanity needs to take little breaks.
No, I want to hear you on Twitter space and just get like on the stage and go, what are you guys talking about?
I think I did that. I did that. I did it once.
You already did that.
I did it.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I gotta hear that.
I did it once where I said it was when all this the stuff was going down with Patrick and I guess one of the guys he was having beef with. And and it was like this big thing. So they were all talking about it throughout the whole entire thing. So I was listening, and I popped in and I said, "Hey, is anything going on right now?" and I think
that's what this space needs so desperately, dude. Is a little bit of that.
Well, that's the point. That's why I did it, and I closed it out with one of those also. And it's just like everybody gets so upset with each other. It's like if you're fighting for the right cause, it's like, look, the debunker's going to come after you no matter what. I've had the debunkers like going. There was one time, I won't name the particular debunker reporter, but like I think maybe me and you, Pavel, I'm pretty sure it was, and we had something, and this person clipped it out and tweeted at me, and was trying to, hey, you're going to say this and you say this, and I looked at it as if when someone beeps me on the road, and I look at him, I go. And I keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it happens in the entertainment space. Like, it's like anything you say, there is just a group of people who that's their gig. That's their gig. Oh, man. That's what they have. That's all they have. And so you
can't put your fists up with them.
Never.
You just can't. Not that's where they live. That's where they get their energy.
Yeah, exactly. You feed it, it comes. Yeah. Don't feed the trolls is the thing. And also, in this space specifically, you never know, like, if a debunker is legitimately a debunker, or is someone, who's just trying to stir the pot and make it a mess so that, like Kristian just said, the longer we're in turmoil with each other, the less we're looking into the topic.
Yeah.
I will say one thing, though. Well, we all know Mick West.
Yeah.
He tweeted something like really tame. I didn't think it was offensive, really. He just said, like, this is not a legit source. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just a journalist. I'm not like from the
You're not a legit source?
He said that. And when he said that, I was just like, wow, can you give me an autograph?
Right. And that's the
right energy.
Well, look, there's a lot of people. Even I remember when we were doing stuff in the movie space, to where I had heard, like, we ran a website for about 2 years. It was schmoesknow.com, and we had gotten into, because when we were running the website itself, And the idea was to break stories. And I was getting some really good tips from people because I used to work in the studio system. So I had gotten some tips, and I had found out back in 2014 that they wanted to do a new Beetlejuice movie. Tim Burton was going to do a new Beetlejuice movie. So I put it out there. I got there. And Jeff Snyder, a Hollywood reporter, now is a friend of mine, was like, who are these idiots? You can't take them seriously. Who the hell schmoes know? So they're doing articles out in their basements. And I got that from so many. I had to have lunch with 4 different Hollywood entertainment reporters because they were all so upset that we came out of nowhere with this information, and we were breaking stories before they were. And we weren't doing it the way that they did it. They had to go through and vet it through the studio. And we were just like, oh, that sounds like, Denzel Washington's going to be in a Magnificent Seven movie? Okay, we'll report that. And they're like, what the hell? I've been working on that story for like a month. So people get very, hey, get out of here. Get out of here.
Get out of my lane.
Who's that?
Stay in your lane.
Who's that person? Get out of here. And that's the guy who's on the other side of it. So you can't take it. It's when it's a big, because you're gonna have, dude, you're in the thick of this thing way more than the two of us. So you're gonna be doing you're gonna have to deal with a lot more of this, especially if you're hearing more stuff. Because I'm curious now to kind of combat what Mick West said because of this. And if it turns out that people start looking, and Ross Coulthart looks into this thing and says, oh, I'm hearing the same thing, that you start to get validated more. And I'm curious that more people are going to start knocking on your door and telling you things. Have you then? But the flip side of that is you're probably going to get a lot of people saying, oh, guess what? I had dinner with an alien last night. You want to see pictures?
Oh, that's
already happening. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I've gotten a lot of messages from doomers telling me all kinds of outlandish stuff. But you gotta, is what I'm telling you. You get the information, you vet the source, you vet the information, and then you release.
Right.
And 99% of stuff that I get doesn't pass at all. So
you mentioned that you were in that interview that you were going to start trying to get some interviews with some of the senators and people in Congress and whatnot, and you were the one that helped collaborate the interview here with Lester Nare. Is this something that you're pushing forward now because you did get a lot of traction on this thing? Can you reach out to a Lester Nare or somebody else to really start putting forward, hey, listen, I want to talk to them about this thing. I'd like to have them on the show, and I'd like to kind of ask those tough questions. Is that something that you're working on right now?
I guess that it won't happen until somebody from the group that knows all the information comes out and say it. Because I've only seen them like allude to it and say that it is true, but none of them has used like an official platform or gone public in front of camera to talk about it. But the people from Congress who I am going to talk to or get a statement from, they are going to give me their names, okay, so I can vet them. But I was told that they weren't going to go public with their names. But if I feel safe enough after I vet them, I'll release the information for sure.
All right, let's switch for a second here and talk about the UAPDA thing kind of getting gutted, what that ultimately means, and B, do these hearings mean anything? And then C, because of the gutting of the UAPDA, do we feel like there's going to be a way more big kind of catastrophic disclosure dump, or is it just going to be, hey, that could happen any second with nothing happening? We'll start with you, Peter. Let me ask you about the fact that we've been talking about what is going to happen with this, what is different this time around with this bill. The difference is even more stuff was cut. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I think that going forward, we should just dismiss this kind of stuff. Like, you want to report on, hey, there's another NDAA thing happening. Okay, I guess put it, out of your mind because ain't nothing happening there. I think the problem with focusing on it and giving it energy is the same thing. Like, you put all your eggs in that basket, maybe it takes the pressure off of citizen reporters, citizen journalists to do their own work and their own digging, because we're all like, well, let's just wait and see what happens there, right? I think you can never be optimistic about that stuff. It's a giant machine. There's tons of special interests involved with stuff like that. And that's just a rule of thumb in general with bills and Congress and federal government. You just got to it's its own thing. If it happens, great, but that's not what's going to move the needle. That's not what's going to cause the window to shift. It's going to be people, grassroots reporting, grassroots information coming out. That's always what's happened, by the way, with civil liberties in history. It's never been that the government goes, you know what? I think I noticed something wrong about our society. I'm going to step on the out in the forefront and lead the charge. It never happens. It's always a reactionary thing. So I would never expect anything from that.
Yeah, Pavel, you have been saying that for a bit when we've talked about Congress. I think it was important that they're asking questions, but Sol Foundation was so reliant on this thing getting passed and it coming back again. Steve Bassett, everybody who's been so reliant on this thing happening again. And I happen to agree with Peter now. This is your last. This is it. Don't do this anymore. At this point, it's just embarrassing. But what do you make of all this?
That's the main reason why I've tried to keep my hands on a little bit of everything on my channel, because I've never thought that it was going to pass. I thought that, and I still do, that if some kind of disclosure is happening, like public disclosure, it's either going to come from science, the James Webb Telescope, or some other type of instrument or breakthrough in like physics or something like that. I still support whatever efforts that are going to be attempted, because I still believe that if it happens that way, it will be even easier to get all the stuff, all the tech, you know. But I've seen, like, for example, Ross Coulthard about a month ago in one of his shows, he was like, it's not going to happen. It's a lost cause. It's like, and I agree, but still, it was worth supporting it. I think so, and they're gonna try next year. Still, they're not gonna give up.
They should give up. It's embarrassing at this point. It's just like there's not. What I mean is, it's embarrassing.
I mean, Lue's out there saying things, and every time he talks, I'm sure you guys are the same way. Like, I'm trying to decode what he's saying. I feel like everything is loaded. But he said repeatedly, like, this should not be a conversation that the government is having with people. This should be a conversation that people are having with their priests, with their community leaders, whatever it is, their families. And so it's almost like he's telling people, don't expect this to come from the government. And that's how I'm reading it, at least.
And you might be right, because speaking of that, and speaking of still from the government, is that these two hearings, the one kind of cockamamie hearing that with Gillibrand running it, with like, hey, here's the new UAP or the new arrow puppet. Here they are. So no one cares. The other one is the one with Luna and Burchett and everybody else involved with the USO stuff. Is there anything that comes out of that now? Are you hearing anything there, Pavel, or is that same thing? Just a lot of show and pony, whatever the hell it's called.
Dog and pony.
Thank you.
There was a tweet recently from Chris Mellon where he says that he met with the new Arrow director and he knew him from before, so he was hopeful. I don't know if it will be positive or negative yet. Yeah. It's a Schrodinger's cat kind of situation right now with him. But the other one is, I don't know. It's hard to say, really. I guess it all depends on whether we're going to get firsthand witnesses and evidence. If that happens, I do see something moving. But if it doesn't, if it's more like, secondhand information, I don't think anything will happen.
Yeah, then who cares? And I think that's the other thing before we get out of here today is that one of the questions I remember that I wanted to ask. Let's all say that hypothetically that the story that Pavel was that he heard about was actually factual and that this thing is coming, and whether it's 2027, 2035, whatever it is, they know that it's coming. Doesn't that negate the other stuff about the not parallel, but the portals and interdimensions? Because
I was just thinking,
right? This is coming from space. So then go ahead, Peter.
Well, I was going to say maybe for our sake, but not like if you're a time traveling race or a species that understands how, that works. I guess it's irrelevant because it's whenever they get here is whenever they get here. It's we're the ones sitting here waiting because we don't understand how to bend time and all that kind of stuff yet. So we're stuck on the linear time path waiting, and they're like, they're already here, or they've been here, or it's past, future. You know what I'm saying? Like it's our end, it's our perspective that's messed up.
I think that's why literature is so important in this topic, because the people who know and have studied this for decades, they're pretty much every one of them is pretty much saying that we're dealing with multiple phenomena, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is proven to be right, if it is, which I'm just treating as a rumor still, that just means that one thing out of many was confirmed. Because, yeah, it's Passport to Magonia from Jacques Vallée talks a lot about this, that the phenomenon is something that plays with human perception a lot. And I think there's something to that too, because I've had anomalous experiences in my life that I can't explain. It has nothing to do with NHI, but there's still stuff that happened to me that I don't know how it did, and that is also part of the phenomenon, I think.
Sure. I mean, I understand that. I think that it is still a guessing game. And there hasn't this year. The biggest thing that had happened was Lue Elizondo's tour. That's the biggest thing that happened with a lot of information that came out and other things. This story could very well be one of the big ones if it turns out to be, factual. But let me
at least until the program comes out, because
we should cover that.
That's the next thing.
Yeah, let's cover that, and then we'll get out of here. All right, let's get into that then, because this is another story that I think is very important. As Pavel just mentioned, the James Fox documentary, the program. Check this out. This is UAP James Fox's The Program is coming on October 23rd, featuring David Grush, Christopher Mellon, Hal Puthoff, and Tim Burchett. That is on October 23rd. Where is it coming? Do we know that yet? Or just know it's coming on that day? Is it like Amazon, you got to rent it, or is it actually on a network?
I caught the last two on Prime. I said we do a watch party.
We should.
They're already talking about the trailer that some people already saw it. It's already out.
What are they saying?
Not in public, but I think James is giving it to some of the people he knows personally, and they're already talking about it. They are saying that there's two faces that we don't know.
Okay.
And they said that there's like a small glimpse of Gary McKinnon, which was interesting to me. In case you guys didn't know who that is, it's the guy who hacked the NASA servers back in the late 90s and talked about like this program for the first time ever, about this space program that it's really outlandish, that we already have working tech since the 50s or 60s, and and I was surprised to hear that McKinnon is there. I wonder what they're going to cover with him.
Well, so let me ask you, is this going to be one of those ones? Because James Fox is a very good filmmaker. He's made some, for people inside of the community, he's made some amazing, when I first started into this topic, Peter told me right away, check out this, and they're both from James Fox. And I did, and they're both great. Outside of the community, nobody really knows what they are, right? So is this the type of documentary that can become groundbreaking enough with the information that it becomes mainstream, to where people, like I mentioned earlier, where I'm interviewing Jillian Michaels and she says, hey, did you see Lue on Joe Rogan? Is this one of those things, or is this just one for the community, Pavel?
I think that one piggybacks the other. The Lue tour is helping the program.
Yep.
Because Lue was on the Daily Show. He was just with Donald Trump Jr. It's like really mainstream. So people are now paying attention to this. And I guess that's why he already has a release date, because he wants to take that opportunity to just get it in people's faces. But if these two unfamiliar faces are actual firsthand people, that is going to be very interesting.
Is there a possibility, because of the debut of these new people, and because Burchett's also in this, that the plan is that whoever these new people are, we wind up seeing them at the hearing in November?
I guess it is. Yeah, possible. Yeah. I heard about one of them, that he seems to be in one of those programs, I think.
All right. So
this is how I would do it, dude.
Yeah.
Remember, we were just talking about this before Pavel jumped on. If you think of it like a PR campaign, Lue's rolling out, you had Grush, and then Lue's doing a whole book tour, and then that's going to lead into James Fox documentary. James Fox will be on Rogan. Jillian Michaels will see James Fox on Rogan.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then this might be people's first documentary that they see on it, and it'd be a perfect one, actually, if you think of the three, because this one is dealing potentially with the most tangible stuff, like the functioning of a program in the department. It's not talking about what they are, but, I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I imagine that would be the crux of it, and that's a perfect thing to come out of Lue's book tour.
And also, Lue has been very clear that he wasn't allowed to talk about crash retrievals. But James Fox is not part of the intelligence community. He can talk about that. So he's going to go full on crash retrievals, which I can't wait.
So we'll see where that is. The other thing that drives me nuts is that if this is that kind of groundbreaking thing, how Netflix isn't going after this. Clearly they're talking, they Spielberg is Spielberg. They put out his thing, and that one that we had the director on, it was a good documentary, but it was nothing that the three of us hadn't seen a million times over. They covered a lot of the same stories we've seen. This is more kind of a groundbreaking thing where it's brand new information, and yet you're probably going to have to rent it in order to see it, where it should be on the streaming platforms. And it very well could be, but none of us know the information of that yet, right?
No, I think that has to do with some issues that James has had in the past with other platforms. He was actually in a legal battle where they stole money from him. I think he already recovered it, but that left him with a bad aftertaste. And he's been very weary of where he takes his stuff to. I don't know if it's going to be rolled out through a specific platform, but I do know that it is going to roll out through a platform. I just don't know which one yet.
All right, well, we're going to find out. Thank you guys for joining us here today on UAP Tuesday on the Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff channel. If you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, subscribe to the channel. Help us get more people listening to this topic. I want to thank our guests today, starting with Peter. Peter, where can I find you?
Hey, I'm everywhere online at Attack Peter. If you have cool alien photos, send them to me.
You just got a whole bunch of AI coming your way. And I'd like to thank Pavel for joining us. Pavel, where can they find you?
Psicoactivo Podcast on YouTube and Pavel Ibarrameda on Twitter. I'm very active there.
Well, there you go.
Ask Kristian to say the title of the show. Ask Kristian to say the title. Ask him.
Yeah, ask me to say the title of your show. Say the title of your show.
Say the title of my show, please.
Pavel's Show. Check out Pavel's show. Check out Pavel's show. Every time I try to search it, you gotta.
You can't say Psicoactivo.
No, it's hard to find your channel. for a dumb white guy like me. Thank you guys once again. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Links to both the Pavel Show and Attack Peter is in the link in the description. So, peace out, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow with a news story. Bye.